everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today we are going to do my spoiler-free review of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars, so let's get to it. I've been thinking about how I want to review this book because I love it so much that I don't want to word vomit on you. The Name of the Wind follows the life's story of Quoth. He is telling his story to a chronicler. The chronicler ended up seeking him out because there's this sort of myth about Quoth, and he sought him out because he wanted to write Quoth's life story. And Quoth told him that if you want my story, if you want it done properly, then I'm going to need 3 days to tell you my life story. All of the events that take place in this book, Quoth is telling in the first day. And then the next book, Quoth will be telling in the second day. And then the third book, which hasn't been released yet, that is going to be all of the final events told within the third day. Now, it's an epic fantasy. It deals with magic. It deals with villains. It deals with a very vulnerable young boy. And it has kind of all the markings of like stereotypical fantasy that you might find, but it turns it completely on its head, and that's what I love so much about it. So let's talk about the world building, because that's a very important part about The Name of the Wind. The story is taking place in 2 different timelines, because we have the present day timeline where Quoth is sitting in the tavern that he is living in, and he is telling his story to the chronicler. That's timeline number 1. But all of the events that happen in the story that he's telling are our second timeline. So we do get flashbacks of him telling the story, but then we do also get interludes of what is happening inside the tavern throughout the whole day that he's telling his story. We first get bits and pieces about this village that this bartender named Coat is living in, and he's the tavern owner. There's this mysterious threat that has been making its way through the village. Like, the trade has become more sparse, and the goods that people are trading for or selling are becoming much more expensive because there's rumors of this misfortune that has befallen people on the road when they're trying to make their way through all the towns. It's set up quickly, but it's also very immersive when Patrick Rothfuss is telling the story, and that's the thing that sold me on making this a 5-star read within the first couple of pages. The next part of the world building takes place when Quoth is telling his story. We hear about how he has grown up. He grew up in a troupe of actors that was a traveling troupe. His parents were lute players and songwriters and storytellers. Quoth's world is very, very small when he starts off. Now, as his life events play out, he winds up in a very, very large town, so we get the world building of the town. And then as his life's events progress him forward, then he ends up at a university to study, and so we get the world building of the university. So while there are many different parts of the world that we have lived in, and it's very complex, the way that the story unfolds and develops, it's very easy to follow along. Again, that immersive writing aspect makes it a very easy world-building experience despite how complex it is. I've knocked a couple books before in the past for not having really great sense of that world building, and that is one definite thing that Patrick Rothfuss excels at. So next I want to talk about the characters. So our main character is Quoth, and he's a little bit of a problematic character for some people, because the reason why the chronicler has sought Quoth out to tell his life story is because this man is sort of a living myth. He's a living legend. There is a sense of myth that follows him around, and he wants to get the truth of it. So the stories that we end up hearing and the tales that he ends up telling, it's like Quoth can do no wrong. He's the smartest, most brilliant kid. He manages to find himself in situations and out of situations, perhaps by his own doing, or things just happen. And some people find a problem with that, but he's a very bright kid. Now, I think one of the things that people forget about Quoth is that he grew up in a troupe of actors. So he has a little bit of a flair for showmanship and a little bit of a flair for just sort of that extravagance and that drama that comes with being a storyteller. And he knows how to make a room listen to him. I think he is seeing this as his chance to tell the best possible story about his life. I mean, he's already very dramatic anyway, because he's saying that he needs 3 days to do it. He's not going to rush through it, and he's not going to do it in 1. He needs 3. I mean, that's a very dramatic thing to say, and I think that's because he is a storyteller's son. He's a storyteller himself, and he wants to tell the best possible version of the story, so he is incredibly complex. I love him. His story is tragic and uplifting at the same time. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. Like I said, I'm trying not to word vomit all over you about how much I love this, but it can't be helped. Now, there are two other characters that I think are incredibly important. The chronicler is an incredibly important character, I believe, because who is this man who also journeyed through this really treacherous part of the world? Like, there's very bad things happening in the world. Who's this man who traveled this far to get Quoth's story? Like, who is this guy? So there's the chronicler. And then there's Quoth's assistant, who is in our present day timeline. His name is Bast. If you saw my best of books at the end of the year, my best of 2017, I just posted it. Bast ended up being one of my top male sidekicks, and there's a little bit of a mystery to Bast. Who is he? What is he? What is his role in Quoth's life? Right now, when we meet him, he is Quoth's assistant and Quoth's student. Is he studying magic from him? Is he not? I love him. He's someone that I think is going to be very important moving forward, and he plays just a very small part in this book, but he's going to be somebody. There's also the village people. There's also the epic saga of characters that we meet throughout Quoth's life. There's a girl. There's a potential romance. There's the people that he meets at the university. There's a lot of different people that touch his life, and those small characters make a really big impact to the story as well. There is a magic system inside The Name of the Wind, and it's very reminiscent to me of The Inheritance Cycle, written by Christopher Paolini. It's the Aragon books, where the names of things are incredibly important. And some of these magicians and some of these people spend their whole life trying to find the true names of objects. It's a very complex form of study. Not everybody has these skills and these capabilities. When you find the true name of something that you can invoke its power, it's an incredibly powerful form of magic. Knowing what the consequences are of performing magic, knowing how to conjure up the different pieces of magic. There's a lot of study that goes into learning this magic system, and I really enjoyed that part as well. So as you can see, like I said, I love this book. 5 out of 5 stars. If you are a fan of Patrick Rothfuss, if you have seen this book floating around, I don't know how you could have missed this book. Pick it up. Don't worry about its size. It's 600 pages. That's fine. You guys can do 600 pages. There are fantasy books out there that take a lot of concentration, and there are fantasy books out there that the story just grabs a hold of you from jump. Once you're hooked, it's really hard to put down. So 600 pages can go by so fast, and I recommend this book to everyone. This ended up being the highest rated book that I read on Goodreads. There's a 4.51 rating on this book on Goodreads, and that's insanely high. Normally books aren't above a 4.5. There's a lot of buzz behind this book. There's a reason for it. I say go pick it up. You won't regret it. 5 out of 5 stars for me. Okay, so that was my spoiler-free review of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you've read this book, please follow me over for my spoilery gush discussion video, because there's just so many pieces about this book that make it so great. And if you haven't read it yet, get on it. You won't regret it. It's amazing. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at WhatCassRead, the same as this channel, so it's super easy to find, and you can see when I'm reading books. Like, I tend to put like little reactions and stuff, and you can see all the things that I'm reading and the reactions that I have in real time. And then of course you can also find me on Goodreads. I have the links down below, so I'm also super easy to find there. And then you can see the reactions, the ratings that I'm giving books as well. And of course, you guys know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later.